Hello and welcome back to my channel. So if you've seen the title of this video, yes, I am postponing the doctorate in educational psychology. Even though I was so looking forward to doing it this year, I had the offer letter, as I did a video previously on how I prepare myself in order to get a place. However, I took the decisions around 2-3 weeks ago that I am going to defer my place, which means that I'm postponing it. I'm not doing it this year. And I decided just to do a video for those aspiring psychology students who are also considering these further studies. How does that look like, or how did it look for me as someone who got a self-funded place? And what were the pros and cons that I took into consideration for taking the decision of not doing it 2025 at least? And what are my options now? What are my next steps? Where am I in my psychology journey abroad? The psychology journey abroad has been going on since 2022, which is the year that I came to London. And I started doing videos since 2023 about my experience doing my conversion masters, my experience like working abroad in the education sector, in the charity sector. And now this video, I have mixed feelings about it because as you can see, I was so enthusiastic about doing this program, this doctorate program this year, but it is not a forever goodbye for the program. It is just not for me this year. Securing the student loan, because it was a self-funded place, as I said at the beginning, which I already knew it was going to be very hard for me to sort out my student loan. I knew it from the moment I clicked apply, but I still decided to apply. I knew that I couldn't get a funded place because I'm an international student. I knew that I wasn't going to get a bursary as the other locals were going to if I get accepted on the doctorate of educational psychology, because the Association of Educational Psychologists is the organization that funds places for these EP doctorate programs, which you have to comply a certain criteria in order to get access to the bursary. What is the bursary? If you guys haven't heard, it's just like a salary that the Association of Educational Psychologists gives you, just like the NHS with the clinical psychology doctorates. The AEP, or Association of Educational Psychologists, is the organization in charge of funding these doctoral trainee places. So anyway, internationals can of course apply, even get accepted like me, but they wouldn't get the benefit of being like a funded person. So I knew this already. This wasn't like brand news for me. And the reason that I still decided to apply and go through all the application was, I guess, first of all, to see if I could actually get a place, if I already hold the relevant experience, also to understand what was the selection process like. So if you haven't checked, I would advise to check my previous video onto how was the selection process. And obviously I don't regret going through all of that, even though I'm not doing it this year, because that showed me that first I was able to get a place and I was able to like successfully pass the steps. And two, even though I won't do it this year, that gives me the confidence that I don't need to work harder in order to get more relevant experience with children and young people between now and the time that I actually start doing the doctorate. I have that peace of mind that I have done my due diligence in terms of gaining the relevant work experience, and in terms of obviously being successful of those interviews, etc., that now I get to choose what is next. So for me, obviously I am on the graduate visa. I came to, like I said, my master, so that was a student visa, graduate visa. The graduate visa is almost over. It's over February 2026. So that means September, October, November, December, January. So that means 5 more months. So even though I'm working, I actually have been working ever since I stepped foot in London. I have worked in a school, in a nursery, then after that I have worked in a non-for-profit, and now I'm working in a university. So even though I'm working, my company doesn't sponsor the type of role that I'm doing in the careers team. So they only sponsor like senior lecturer or lecturer roles. And I want to try and get a sponsorship in the sectors that sponsor the most, which basically are the corporate world, HR. I'm not shutting the doors to education. So I'm aiming for roles that are either in big unis, big corporations that could sponsor me within the HR team, which is where my background is. So I don't know if you've heard any of my other videos, but I always talk about how I left my HR role back in Peru, which is my home country. And now I get a lot of mixed feelings because now I'm actually applying to HR again, which is like, whoop. But honestly, now that a lot of things have happened over the past months, and in general, like to summarize, I have the peace of mind that I don't need to work in school again in order to get more experience with children. I could volunteer as well because generally I love working with children, hence I wanted to pursue this child psychology route. But I don't need to do it in the sense of like, okay, now I need to gain more because I want to place in the doctorate. I have already gotten it. So now I'm deciding to step into the corporate world or education and maintain myself there if they sponsor, of course, until I am 100% financially ready in order to assume such a huge student loan that I was planning on assuming this year, where I wasn't entirely ready to do. And there was a lot of anxiety in me because I knew that this wasn't probably the most smart financial decision that I was going to make, even though it was my true passion. I don't have to say goodbye forever to my dream, etc. And I'm not saying that obviously studying a doctorate is an investment at the end. However, there are some scholarships that I'm starting to get my head around, not through the AEP, but you might be like wondering about, hey, why doesn't she comply with the requirements to get a funded place through the AEP? Well, if you're wondering that, then the answer is this. In order to get a funded place through the AEP for a doctoral program in educational psychology, you need to have first permission to work in England for the duration of the course and for at least 3 years after completing the course. So what does that mean? I mean, basically being a local, basically being someone with unrestricted right to work, a citizen. So for example, someone with the ILR, indefinite leave to remain, will definitely be able to access this funded place because they would have right to work for the duration of the program, which is 3 years, and 3 years after. Why are the 3 years after so crucial for the AEP or the Association of Educational Psychologists? Is because they want to make sure that if they are paying for your place, which is not cheap, then you are going to pay sort of them back in the sense of being an educational psychologist for at least 3 years in the UK, so that it makes sense for them to have paid you the doctoral trainee and the bursary. So bursary / salary plus free training. So that's basically what the AEP gives you as someone who is getting a funded place. So they expect you, and in other words, not only expect, you actually need to sign the contract in which you say, yes, I will work in the UK for 3 years after completing my doctorate as an educational psychologist in order to sort of contribute back to what you guys have paid for, which is basically my tuition and living costs during the 3 years. Bearing in mind the bursary, sometimes it's not a lot per month, so sometimes you still need to sort of trying to have some savings aside in order to fund your living costs in London. So it is quite challenging now that I'm saying it out loud, even with the bursary. So imagine my case where I wouldn't have even had that bursary in the first place. So I was going to self-fund my doctorate. I was going to ask for a loan in order to fund my tuition fees and part of my living costs. That is crazy. I mean, I was going to do that. I was already sort of in the research stage, talking to banks, private banks from Peru. Banks here in the UK don't usually do student loans. They only do personal loans, which is not the same. And they just signpost you to student finance. And student finance says, yeah, sure, I can help you out, but only if you comply certain criteria, which I didn't. What I needed to either, again, have an ILR or indefinite leave to remain in the UK, which is basically like being a citizen, or being from the EU, the European Union. I'm from Peru, that's South America, or have a relative which was someone who had indefinite leave to remain in the UK. Like a relative, it couldn't be like a cousin. No, it had to be like sibling, parents or children or spouse. It could be either from the UK and I think from the European Union as well. So they had like a lot of possible like routes that someone could say, yeah, I'm actually, I don't know, I have a close relative that is from the European Union or that is from the UK, then you could actually access Student Finance UK. So you don't need to be a UK national in order to access student finance, but you do need to comply other criteria. And if you are interested in obviously getting the official information on that, there is a questionnaire that Student Finance asks you in order to see if you're eligible for student finance. I completed that, and at the end it said no, because I couldn't fit any of their boxes. So I was like, okay, then what? Then that's when I started contacting private banks in Peru. And that's where things started getting too stressful. And I realized what a financial burden this will still be even 6, 7, 8 years after I finish studying the doctorate. And I decided to take a step back from all of that and just focus on sorting out how am I going to make that possible in 2026 or 2027. And then, hence, because I decided that, I now need to sort out my visa. So basically, my current role, as I said, only sponsors lecturer roles, senior lecturer roles. So now it's time. Well, it has been for a while. Like exactly 2 weeks ago, I've started this job hunting, but very strategic. So only to sponsor roles, only to companies that actually sponsor, only to roles that obviously I have the background in and I can do, and tailoring my CV to every role. And yeah, I'm planning on doing a separate video about like how is my job search strategy and how am I like progressing in my interviews and everything. For any of you guys who know how stressful it is to search for a job, I feel you. Comment if you have been in this place. And obviously it's easier, I guess, to search for a job with a job already, but it is still not easy because I still will need to find the time. I need to be strategic. So the word strategic has been my mantra over the last 2 months since I decided to postpone the doctorate. I need to be strategic. Majo, you need to be strategic about your future. I'm talking to myself right now. I know that your passion is to be an EP. I know that you want to help children, young people, families, etc. You can still do all of those things, but first you need to take care of yourself, okay? So going on this financial burden for 10 years or 8 years, 9 years after the doctorate is not really smart, bearing your context right now in 2025 August. So let's just step aside, take a deep breath, see if you can defer the place. Don't defer it, it was possible. And then figure out what's next. So what's next for me? Skilled worker visa. And do I have like the tools? Do I have the strategies? Yes, because that's what I do at my job anyway, helping students understand themselves in the job market and setting goals and attaining goals, setting strategies. So I thought to myself, well, now I need to do that for me. Now I need to set strategies for myself. And yeah, I wouldn't say, oh, this was a piece of cake. I mean, I still needed a plan. I still needed to think, okay, how many applications am I going to do per day? I don't have a year, I have 5 months. So I need to be realistic in my goals as well. I'm not thinking, okay, let's do 100 applications today. That's not realistic. So yeah, I know a lot of people are like, oh, so sick of SMART goals. But I'm not going to use the SMART goals. I'm just going to say be mindful of your time and energy. Okay, so that's like a change of SMART goals. Forget the SMART goals. Be mindful of your time and energy and try to focus your time and energy in attaining that realistic goal that you want. My realistic goal now is to find a sponsored role before the end of the year or by the end of the year. That is realistic. That doesn't intimidate me a lot. If I set unrealistic goal saying, yeah, by next week I need to be in a sponsored role, then that would make me anxious, frustrated, because obviously I won't get sponsored role by next week. So what I'm saying is that we have to be realistic. We have to be mindful of our time and our energy, and things will happen just because, one, we have to have internal motivation, and two, we have to take radical action. I'm not talking radical action, 100 applications per day, of course, like I said, but radical actions, strategic actions, 2, 3, even 4 applications per day could be radical, strategic, and realistic, and could be done for 30 days or even 2 months until we actually start getting results. So I think I'm deviating from my topic here. I'm already talking about strategic job hunting here. But this video was actually just to walk you through my decision process as to how I decided to do what I'm doing, to postponing my studies, which was going to allow me to practice as an EP, which is what I wanted to do so bad, like I've been saying in other videos as well. But it's a strategic thing, again with the word strategic, that I decided to do for attaining the same goal, which is working with children and young people in a therapeutic way. So that's the same goal, but the way in which I am going to achieve it has changed, or the timings in which I am going to achieve it have changed. Does that make me a failure or someone who is not capable of doing it faster? Of course not. That doesn't make me anything. That just makes me someone who is thinking about herself, prioritizing, and thinking a bit more strategically, smart, setting a plan, setting steps, and Well, yeah, since I started doing videos and since I moved to the UK in general, I've already overcome many challenges. This wouldn't be the first, or not even the second. This would be, I think, like the sixth, like the big ones, right? Like figuring out visas, figuring out the career change, like finding something in my sector, figuring out the doctorate, like applying to it, and now figuring out, okay, change of plans. Now I am actually going to transition into the skilled worker visa, not onto the student visa part 2 anymore. So yeah, did I say 6 challenge? Those were like 4. But obviously here I'm only talking about like jobs, visa, etc. Talking about like obviously life challenges since coming to live in the UK, obviously more than 6, more than 4, so many. But specifically about like visas and jobs and finding myself in the job market, like there has been various transitions so far, so this wouldn't be the first. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, I hope this helped international students or aspiring international students, as I've been receiving many DMs from you, like asking things like, is it possible to fund a doctorate, for example? That's a question that I've been receiving. Like, well, the short answer is, if you have 50k in tuition fees plus the financial ability to sustain yourself living cost wise for 3 years, then yes, of course you can self-fund your doctorate. That doesn't mean that it is easy to get into. Not because it's self-funded, it's any easier to get a funded. Like, the reason why I wasn't able to apply to a funded place was because I didn't comply with the criteria of the AEP that funds places to people who have unrestricted right to work in the UK, 3 years for the duration of the program and 3 years after. So yeah, so that's why I went into the funded route. And something that I forgot to mention is that there are some scholarships, depending on where you're from. So I'm from Peru, so I can only talk about me, but there are some scholarships that could potentially help you with the tuition/living costs of even a doctorate that you're studying in the UK. So that's what I've started to research, and I found one, but then I found out that it didn't fund the type of doctorate that I wanted to do. So I was like, oh no. But that doesn't mean that I will give up. That doesn't mean that I will give up on searching into ways in which I can fund in the future my doctoral in educational psychology, or who knows, maybe I'll change. I don't know. Maybe I'll change to counseling psychology, which actually the other day that I was in my course, in my evidence-based therapy course, I actually was talking about this, like how I'm deferring my place. And the lecturer of that course, which is a counselor psychologist, was talking about how a girl dropped from her EP program. I think a funded place, I'm not sure, but it was because she realized it was too admin oriented. I am aware, I am mindful that being an educational psychologist is a lot of admin, because you basically assess children and young people and you are writing reports on them, which can be very long. You are doing EHCPs or education healthcare plans. So it's a lot about writing and also maybe a bit of counseling as well, but it's mostly like writing. And I knew this, guys, obviously. I know a lot about the subject, I've read a lot. But then something got me thinking. I heard her and I was like, yeah, I hear you. I told her, like, I mean, I like, it's not like that I love admin. I do it in my current role. I manage a caseload of students. I do admin. I've done admin in the past as well with other caseloads in the non-for-profit. But doing it like 80% of my time and just 20% maybe like speaking face-to-face, which is the thing that lights me up the most, I am not sure, guys. So what if all of this was also for a reason? What if all of this was also for me to, okay, perfect, skilled worker visa, corporate roles, HR, or even, again, education, but ones that could actually sponsor? Fine, that's fine, like for now. But what if when the time comes and I apply to the doctorate, well, I've deferred my place, but I obviously could choose just to, go on to doing another program. What if I just choose to do counseling psychology instead? So I was like, okay, that is something that I need to think. But that is something that Maha from 2025 doesn't need to worry. Maha from 2025 has worried enough. Has worried and has acted upon a lot of things enough. Oh, and of course, I'm radically acting now on this new transition that I'm searching for, which is a transition from the graduate visa to the skilled worker. But that, like counseling or educational psychology, like deciding which one I'm going to pursue, I don't need to figure out today or this year. I could take my time and think about it. and also think about ways in which I can fund it, things about scholarships, etc. I hope this video inspired any of international students out there thinking about doing the same route. Like, what does it entail? What are the struggles that I'm facing right now, so that maybe you guys can have a heads up on that. Please keep DMing me on my Instagram. I love hearing from you, and I do my best to answer the questions that I receive. And I'll see you in the next video, where I'll talk more about my job search strategies. Until then.